Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. Today is Thursday, November 23rd. It's day 48 since the Hamas attacks on South Israel on October 7th, and since what the world is calling the war between Israel and Hamas began. Wanted to give you an update right now on the hostage release situation. I'm sure that you heard in the last 24 to 48 hours that Israel's government agreed with Hamas to a 4-day pause in fighting and the release of 50 hostages that are held in Gaza in exchange for 150 Palestinians that are imprisoned in Israel. In addition to that, it's been agreed that an increase in humanitarian aid would enter into Gaza during the pause in fighting. This was negotiated by Qatar and the United States, and this is the same deal that we've been talking about for more than a week. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that the hostages that will be released are 50 women and children. For every additional 10 hostages released, there's the potential for an additional day that would be a pause in fighting. This could go up to as long as 10 days, but Israeli officials have said that it's unlikely. They believe it will last that long. In addition, the US and Israel will pause drone flights over Gaza for 6 hours every day as a part of this deal. And the Qatar's lead negotiator, the Minister of State, Mohammed al-Khulafi, said that the agreement should prompt the international community to, quote, seize this brief window of opportunity to generate further momentum for the diplomatic track. And I hope you take that as an encouragement. Please, 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 if or as this deal moves forward, call your members of Congress, your senators, your representative, and ask them to support a bilateral ceasefire, to pursue diplomatic means to resolve the crisis, to call for a return of hostages, for immediate and adequate humanitarian assistance into Gaza. I'll talk in a minute about how catastrophic the situation is there. And of course, our position at Churches for Middle East Peace is that the core issues of the conflict have to be addressed, that the occupation of the Palestinian people has to be brought to an end. The blockade that has been going on in Gaza for 16 years has to be brought to an end. And our hope is that this escalation and the atrocities that happened on October 7th and then the bombing of Gaza, that there could be a tipping point which would demand that the world would intervene so that, the can that has been kicked down the road since 1948 and 1967 and 1973, that there could be a resolution to this decades-long problem of what is known as the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, that there could be a diplomatic solution, and it can be proximate peace where there's a temporary solution where, peacekeeping forces could be brought in temporarily into Gaza and the West Bank as an intermediary step to end the military control and occupation of the Palestinian people. That's one potential solution, for example. The big news in terms of the hostage release agreement is that it was supposed to start today, Thursday, but it's now being postponed until tomorrow, Friday. And there is a conversation. Hamas would like to release the hostages to Egypt. Israel would like the hostages to be released to the Red Cross. I think that is still being negotiated. Israel's National Security Council said, that the start of the release will take place according to the original agreement, but not before Friday. President Biden has said there are 3 Americans that are expected to be among those released. One of them is an American hostage who's a 3-year-old little girl. In terms of the increased humanitarian aid that is supposed to happen during the pause, 300 trucks a day are supposed to be allowed through the Rafah border, including cooking oil for bakeries, fuel for hospitals, and that is supposed to increase when the cessation of fighting begins. According to OSHA, the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, 80 trucks were allowed in through Rafah yesterday. The total amount of trucks starting October 21st was only 1,479 as of yesterday. 1,479 in 6 weeks. The total amount of trucks before all this began was 10,000 trucks in a month. Now, those numbers exclude fuel, but still, it's nothing compared to what is needed. OSHA did just update their death toll numbers. They're using the numbers from the Gaza Media Office, which is saying that 14,500 people have been killed, more than 6,000 of whom are children. UNICEF reported that in the last days of this war, 100 children have been dying every day. While this is going on, since the hostage agreement has been reached, hostilities in Gaza have continued. Ground clashes between Israeli forces and Palestinian armed groups throughout areas of the north, at Jabalia in particular. Airstrikes have continued, shelling by Israeli forces in multiple areas across Gaza. And Israeli ground troops have continued to maintain the severance from the north to the south. We heard of hospitals in the north that are evacuating patients and evacuating people to the south. El Shifa Hospital evacuated 190 wounded and sick people, and the Palestinian Red Crescent Society reported that it took 20 hours for their convoy to travel because of obstructions and inspections through the Israeli military checkpoints to get to the south. 20 hours. The whole Gaza Strip is only 26 kilometers long. I could go on in terms of the attacks that have affected or been on health facilities. I have lots of statistics about that. But I think I will stop there. Next week, we will have our Monday call into Congress, our Wednesday prayer gathering, our Thursday briefing. We do have webinars and educational opportunities. If you have not seen, we just released yesterday our professional footage and video from Monday's prayer vigil that many of you joined in. Please take a look. The professional video is just lovely. We had so many more people than we expected. And so we had a permit, and then the second permit with the additional equipment was denied. And so we weren't able to get that professional footage out right away, but it's out now. If you have not seen that, take a look. We encourage everyone every day of Advent, and you don't have to wait till Advent, call your members of Congress, call for a ceasefire, an end to the bombing of Gaza, call for an end to violence against civilians, call for immediate and adequate humanitarian assistance to Gaza. If this hostage exchange goes through, support it and call for the complete release of hostages. Mark your calendars for December 11th. That will be our next gathering in Washington, D.C. We'd encourage you to come and be with us. We will be at New York Avenue Presbyterian Church that evening. There will be other activities in D.C. around that time. The Lord willing, we'll be able to celebrate together, an end to the hostilities, and we'll be able to look ahead towards diplomatic solutions. But if not, we will need you in DC to peacefully call for nonviolent resolution, to peacefully call for a ceasefire and an end to the bombing of Gaza and an end to all violence, for the sake of Israel, for the sake of Palestinians, for the sake of the United States that is complicit in this horrific war. So if you're with your family, be blessed, and much gratitude for those of us who live in safety and security. And thank you for joining with us as we work together toward peace.